No nonsense gin drinking. All gin and a surprising amount of nonsense.
Hello gin lovers, welcome back. I'm Bobby Freeman and today, my friends, it's the video that everyone, literally everyone, or everyone who watches this channel, or a very small percentage of people that watch this channel, anyway, literally some people have been waiting for. It is the top 10 gins of 2022. Now, this year has been particularly difficult because I've had some extraordinary gins over last year and it's been very tough to whittle them down. So a lot of people might be, watching this video and go, how come we didn't use that one? How come I didn't pick that one? I know. There are plenty of gins which could have made it onto this list this year, but I had to make a few very difficult decisions. So I've collated these gins into a sort of a very reluctant, it's not a reluctant top 10, but as I say, there are many others that could have been in there and, well, they're not. Now, before we start, I've got two annoying bugs just landed on my studio light. Luckily, I've got my Santa hat here. I'm going to attempt to whack them off. And that, you bastard! And that, you bastard! And that, you bastard! Excellent. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You do not get that sort of thing on other YouTube channels. Anyway, the pest control issues have been resolved. I say let's crack on with the top 10 gins of 2022.
Number 10.
So, my friends, in at number 10, and I have to apologise because some of these gins I haven't actually got anymore, so I'm going to have to use a little graphic like this. And this is number 10 and it is Green Hook Ginsmith's Gin. Now this one, if you remember rightly, it was way back at the beginning of the year, and it was kind of it was a recommendation from one of my subscribers, and I'd never heard of it before. Never heard of it. It's coming out of Brooklyn, New York, USA, and it looked fairly mundane, sounded fairly mundane. However, it was far from mundane because they had used the magic ingredient of elderflower, and as many of my regular viewers know, elderflower, you could put anything in elderflower and it tastes and smells wonderful. You could line up a freshly laid dog's turd on my desk here, lace it with elderflower. I walk into the studio and go, ooh, what's that lovely smell? And it was absolutely extraordinary. Beautiful kind of juniper base with this excellent sort of floating elderflower in there. A little bit of cinnamon in there as well, just to balance it off, a warming spice as well. A very core gin, but a very excellent core gin and a very well deserved place in my top 10.
Number 9.
And in at number 9 was a lesser known gin. Indeed, I doubt it's going to be available in most places around the world, bar the UK. I believe, I might be wrong, but in the future this might change. But this one was the lovely little gin by the name of Tipple Gin. It's a very small distillery based here in the UK, but it was extraordinarily, not only has it got an absolutely beautiful bottle, it was also beautifully original because I believe it used damsons and honey. It was a very sweet gin, but kind of a sort of an indulgent gin, and definitely kind of a bit of a guilty pleasure, I always feel a bit self-conscious when they say, do you want any sort of drink, a cocktail? I say, have you got anything sweet? They're all a bit like, oh, it's too bitter for you, is it, Mummy? You have to have a sweet one. Oh. Maybe not quite as camp as that, but words and sort of gesticulations to that effect. But anyway, my point is, I really like it. I don't see why I should be ashamed of liking sweet things. I like sweet stuff, I wish I was sweet enough, but I'm obviously not. But anyway, it was an absolute delight to drink, to sniff, and just to generally be around. And if you see it anyway, if you're in the UK, definitely get some. If you've got a sweet tooth and you don't worry about looking silly like me about drinking sweet things, get some because you'll absolutely love it. And look out for it if you are in other parts of the world, because I have many viewers from many countries watching this humble little show. Look out for it when it comes your way, or indeed if you ever visit the UK, make sure you pick some up.
Number 8.
And in at number 8, my friends, it is my good old friend James Gin. Now, many of you will know, I think it got last year, the previous year, 2021, Best Gins of 2021. I think it got number 3, if I remember rightly. This one was wonderful. I preferred the original, if I'm absolutely honest, but this one was an absolute... It was a unique and original delight, because what I like about James and the original gin as well, they try to make they try and go back to the drawing board and make things extremely original. And you cannot, I said that 3 times and my bracelet's fallen off. You cannot get more original than this. It is American mustard flavored. Now that sounds weird enough in itself, but it's not. It's even weirder than that, because not only is it kind of mustardy flavour, it's kind of almost like biting into a lovely big loaded burger with a bit of everything in there. And that sounds bizarre, doesn't it? You wouldn't think that would ever go with gin, but somehow they've managed to weave it in there somehow, and it kind of works. It's what I would call a savoury gin. There's not many of them, but I've always really enjoyed them. An excellent pairing with, wow, to be honest, I guess if you had a big burger or a hot dog or something, and you ever wanted to sort of wash it down with some gin, and let's face it, why wouldn't you? That, my friends, is the one to go for. So don't be put off by the sort of rather strange kind of ingredient list in there, or the botanical list, because that one is definitely one to try.
Number 7.
So we move on to number 7, and this one is this little fellow. It is London Garden Beefeater London Garden Special Edition Gin. Oh my God, Special Edition Gin. Keep it together, Bobby, you can do it. And this one was a bit of an enigma, bit of a strange one, because it's not readily available on the shelves. However, it is available in Spain, which is where I got my, my bottle of it from, but not available here in the UK, which is weird, because Beefeater is actually made here in the UK, about sort of 6 miles from my actual house, so it seemed a bit strange. However, I thought it was probably a good idea to feature it on the show, and lots of people have been asking for it, and basically, it didn't blow me away, but I really liked it because it was basically a lemoned up version of the original Beefeater. Not hugely. I think they'd added lemon verbena into it, and I think it worked really well. As I say, not massively different, but actually well enough to, I think, because it kind of grew on me after I watched the video as well. I think it's good enough they should actually, if they're going to do that, it's a slightly tweaked version of the original Beefeater. Why not just replace the original Beefeater with this one? Because it was absolutely delicious, slightly lemoned up, and let's face it, I think, is there anything you can add lemons to that it wouldn't improve? Well, actually, it's not a very good way of putting it, because there's quite a lot of things you could add lemon to and that wouldn't improve. But I think you get what I mean. Not many kind of gins and sort of citrusy kind of drinks that you can't improve with the addition of lemon. So I think, and I actually saved the people at Beefeater and Big Des, their lovely, wise master distiller. I think get rid of the original Beefeater. I mean, I love it, it's great, but that's so close to it, but just a little bit better. I say replace it with that one. That's why it is in my top 10 today.
Number 6.
And in at number 6, it is Gunpowder Gin with citrus. Now this, again, very similar to the last one, a kind of citrused up and zizzed up, if that is indeed a word, version of the previous one, because everyone knows about the Drumshambo, where the hell is it? There it is there, the Irish Gunpowder Gin over there, very widely drunk around the world. They basically just lemoned and, well, that's not actually true. They didn't lemon it up, they citrused it up a little bit. They didn't actually, well, partly they lemoned it up, but there was lots of weird, sort of strange and wonderful citrus fruits in there, weird ones. For example, Citrus monstruosa, which is an extraordinary name, so it conjures up a sort of image of a monstrous kind of lemon, if you can imagine such a thing. But basically, that's essentially what it is: a great big, ugly, knobbly lemon that's not very attractive to look at. And what this did was it gave it a kind of an extra citrus quality, but kind of, it's hard to explain, but I described it in my video as a kind of an otherworldly citrus to it, a real kind of bizarre, strange and unfamiliar depth of citrus sort of qualities about it, and it kind of really suited the gin in the same way that previous Beefeater really suited the Beefeater. This really suited the Gunpowder Gin, and it came in a beautiful emerald Irish green bottle as well. And it just, for me, as I say, took what was one of my favourite gins anyway, and kind of elevated it to a new level, and that's why it had to go, a fairly decent and respectable place in my top 10. By the way, guys, if you are enjoying this top 10 video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can see many other videos just like it, and it will make me feel like I'm not wasting my time.
Number 5.
Right then, in at number 5 is me good old friend, the Newcastle Gin Man. Unfortunately, I can't do the Newcastle accent very well, so I'm going to stop doing it. That was a very sort of clumsy and vain attempt at doing it. But I know the Newcastlians, the Geordies as they are affectionately known, I know they won't mind, because we here in the UK, and particularly in Newcastle, possess something called a sense of humour, which unfortunately is a rapidly diminishing quality in this day and age. However, we won't get into that. And this one blew me away. As you can see, it's a rather unassuming exterior, sort of fairly sort of plain, just black and white bottle. It's not going to leap out from the shelf at you, but it is doing, it's a kind of a core gin, but it's just doing everything right. Beautifully balanced junipers, working with all the classic gin flavors, and a kind of, I can't really say too much about it other than it's kind of one of the what you'd imagine to be like a perfect gin. Okay, it just did everything in right amount. When a gin does it really well, it kind of balances out into a beautiful harmony of flavors. Each just, so when you hear a 4-part harmony, it just sings and hums and just it does something to you. It makes you go, oh, it makes your spine tickle. That's one of those gins. It is a plain and simple. It's not plain and simple. It is simple, but it is elegant and it is a wonderful gin. So I can't really describe it any better than that, other than say, if you see it, go out and buy it. And if you like gin and you are an enthusiast, you will see what I mean. It was a wonderful gin and definitely worth my number 5.
Number 4.
So at number 4, we have our first Argentinian gin in the top 10. This was sent to me, by the way, I should tell you what it is first. It is Aconcagua. Now, I'm probably almost certainly saying that incorrectly. Named after a very large mountain, I assume, in Argentina. And this was sent to me by my good friend, Dr. Surgeon, who has his own YouTube channel all about gin and Instagram channel. He's very good. Go and check him out. And he's a lovely, very handsome chap as well. And I'd never really, well, never at all drunk Argentinian gins before, but I was blown away by the quality of them. All of them absolutely exceptional, but this was my favourite. Not only has it got a beautifully crafted and beautiful coloured bottle there and design bottle, it just absolutely floored me, and this has been one of my go-to gins ever since. As you can see, there's not much left yet. I'm rationing it because obviously I can't get any more of it over here. And again, it was a very core gin, okay, but it was heavy in the juniper. It was kind of wallowing, sort of thick, viscous juniper, and I love a thick, viscous juniper gin, much like the old Brooklyn gin up there. That was thick and viscous. This did it in a brilliant way. It was kind of lively with flavours and sort of just a perfect amount of bouncing citrus in there with the junipers, and it kind of just did everything right and just sort of fizzed and crackled a little bit on the tongue as well. And I tell you what, and it was really cheap. I forget how much it was. It was less than £20, worked out at less than £20 over here. So I tell you what, my friends, if you are indeed in Argentina or anywhere else where this is available, if you see this little fellow, pick one of those up. I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Number 3.
Okay, so we're getting to the business end now, and this, my friends, many of you will recognise this one. This is, of course, Mermaid Citrus Zest. No, just Mermaid Zest, but there is some citrus in there. And this one, for a while, was going to be my number 1. Any of these 3 now, this one and the next 2, could easily have been my number 1. I told you it was a really difficult selection this year, but it just got pushed back a little bit. That doesn't mean it's any less brilliant. Me and Narissa, particularly Narissa, she has, when I've come home, she's very often been sat with the bottle just like, well, no, I'm only joking. She had a gin tonic on the go, and it was almost always one of these. And the interesting thing about this one was, not only did they, when they usually talk about citrus, they're citrus, but a lot of them, these gins are sort of citrus additions that I've actually featured in this top 10. Most of them kind of use lemons or oranges or limes or something like that, but this one, very interestingly, used grapefruit as the primary citrus kind of maker. And again, I'm not, regular viewers of this show will know, I'm not a big fan of the grapefruit, to be honest. However, I don't know what they did to it. I don't know what witchcraft and wizardry they used, but it tasted incredible. It was a sweet and kind of luscious version of the grapefruit. None of that bitterness, a tiny bit of the bitterness, but just enough so it was palatable. In the same way that tonic water, I find it's a tiny bit bitter, too bitter for some people, but I kind of like that tiny bitterness used wisely, and it was used very wisely in here, my friends. It is a truly magnificent gin, and I can't believe it. I think it was actually better than the original, which was amazing anyway, but that one, and I know that they're getting really big now, Mermaid. Made, of course, in the Isle of Wight, just off the south coast of UK here. However, they are exporting around the globe, and I know you can get the original Mermaid at places like, across the Atlantic in the US and other places. So look out, my friends. This one is going to be following suit, and it's coming to a gin shop near you. And believe me now, don't be put off. If you don't like grapefruit, don't be put off, because I didn't like it anyway. So trust me, it's awesome.
Number 2.
So guys, in at number 2, and he's done it again. Good old Steve the bartender with his threefold gin. The reason I say that is he actually got number 2 last year, which is the original threefold gin up there, which is absolutely out of this world and expertly crafted. Wow, he sent me all the way from Australia again his new gin. New gin? It's just a new gin. And this one's called Threefold GSM, which stands for Gin, Shiraz and Mourvedre. Now, if you don't know what Shiraz and Mourvedre are, they're different types of grapes usually used to make wine, and he's combined them all together. The ratio, I believe, was 75% Shiraz, 25% Mourvedre, and they macerate it quite quickly over 2 days. And it's, well, basically, you can imagine what it's like. It's like a sort of a red wine gin kind of delightful, just indulgent treat on the senses, right from the smell. I mean, straight, oh man, it's heaven. It's heaven. It's pure, jammy, thick. Look, it's even sticking to the cork there. Thick, kind of sweet, luscious gin and red wine heaven. Extremely soft on the palate, velvety, jammy. I think that's every adjective I can apply to it. And again, it was so close. It could easily have been number 1. It's just, oh, it's painfully close this year, but I had to have it in there. It had to be at the business end again, because by the way, Steve the bartender, if you don't know who he is, he's another YouTuber, has a huge, very successful channel. He's an incredible guy. He's like the king of the drink sort of YouTubers, and you should definitely go and check him out. And you should definitely try this little fellow when it gets to your country, because at the moment, I think they're still in Australia, but I think they're starting to, sort of looking at branching out. And that's why, my friends, that is number 2. That is a truly exceptional gin and a joy to drink.
Number 1.
However, guys, as we know, there can only be one number 1. So I know you're probably all on the edge of your seats, so I will put you out your misery. The number 1 gin of 2022, according to me, on my humble little gin channel here, is... That's right, my friends, they have done it again. The number 1 of last year, Highclere Castle, have literally blown it out the park this year, or last year as the case may be, with this, their barrel-aged version of their truly exceptional gin. Now, you're probably thinking to yourselves, what made this number 1? Okay, what made this so special? Well, I'll tell you, I have drunk many gins on this show, as you know, probably hundreds of gins, different gins, right? However, this one was, it was a departure from how I normally enjoy gin. It made me enjoy it in a completely different way than I had to before. And that, as I say, considering the amount of gins I've drunk, is quite an achievement. Because this, as you probably guessed, has a tinge of whiskey about it. It was distilled, well, it wasn't distilled, it was left to sort of sit and absorb that whiskey essence in whiskey barrels, okay? And it, as I say, has given it a tinge of whiskey about it. And I did try one barrel-aged gin before on the show. I thought it was okay. I wasn't that sort of blown away by it. However, whatever they've done, or whatever type of barrels they've got up at Highclere Castle, this worked absolutely perfectly with this gin. So not only did it retain that beautiful, excellent, incredible, simplistic brilliance and silky smoothness of the original Highclere gin, the essence of whiskey in there was kind of weird to start with, because I'm not a whiskey drinker, okay? I've never really got into whiskey before. And when it first went across the tongue, it was a bit like, I'm not sure about this. But once that subsided, it kind of just all slotted together and made absolute sense. And what I've kind of done, rather than have like a nice big tumbler glass, which I usually do for most of my gins, I drink this in a little whiskey glass, a sophisticated, well, I think it's sophisticated, it's just a whiskey glass anyway. And I sit in my high-backed chair. I don't have a high-backed chair, it's a sofa, but I sit on my low-backed sofa, which I, if I sort of slip down a little bit, it could feel a little bit like a high-backed chair. And I just sip it gently, tiny sips. Now, I think I am a heathen, because I actually have it with tonic, like a normal gin tonic, and I don't believe that is really the idea. However, I don't know. I think that the tonic, for me, as I say, I'm not a classic whiskey drinker. It took that edge off and sweetened it up just a tiny bit, and I absolutely, this is a testament to how much I like it. Since I tried it a few weeks ago, I have drunk no other gin. There's not much left. I'm kind of just rationing myself because I don't want to run out. I have drunk nothing else, not a single other gin. And that, all these things combined made me realise that it has to be the number one. There is, you know, they've been extremely close this year, as I said, but for me, this one just tips it over the edge for all the reasons I've just described. So that is why, my friends, number one gin of the year this year is Highclere Castle Barrel Aged Gin, limited edition, so get it now before you're too late. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed that video today. I feel quite exhausted, to be honest. It always takes it out of me, these top 10 gin videos. But if you have enjoyed this video, as I always say, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can see all my other videos. Press the little like button on the video if you liked it, and if you want to support the show, head over to the Patreon page, or indeed press the join button below this video. But until next time, guys, you all know the drill. Take care, stay safe. Thank you to all my patrons and members, and of course, keep drinking the gin.